Hi everybody, this is Jeremy Kruer here. Today I'm going to talk to you about the website that I've been using to help me learn F-sharp development and also help me become a better F-sharp developer. So I found out about this website. I was reading on Hacker News and I read an article about a guy that he went to a code school, a boot camp, um, and he wanted to change careers. He went to a boot camp. The boot camp was an online boot camp, and they used this website to help teach Java development. And the guy really got into it. And after he completed the boot camp, he kept using the website, solving challenges, competing in challenges and contests, and ended up getting hired by an investment bank based off of this website. And it sounded interesting to me. As you can see in the background, the website is called hackerrank.com. It's a completely free website, and the idea behind it is there's different challenges you can do, but also there's a job aspect to it, which I'm not real familiar with yet. But apparently, you can solve challenges and compete in contests, and you get a score and a rank. And supposedly, a lot of companies use it to do recruiting. Now, I can't speak for the recruiting aspect of it, but I can speak for the challenges and the contests. They're a lot of fun. They make you think, just something a little bit different, give you a goal to compete for. So I'm going to show you around the website. And as I said, the website is just www.hackerrank.com. You can join. You do have to join before you can see any of the challenges, I believe, but it is free to join. So I went ahead and joined, and here is what they call their different domains. So they have different areas. They have tutorials, algorithms, data structures. They have some language-specific stuff, such as Java and Python, Ruby. But the one I'm going to be talking about mainly is the functional programming. Now, you don't have to uh, use the functional programming for the F sharp. I've done some of the algorithm challenges with F sharp. I've done some of the tutorial challenges with F sharp. Now, obviously, you can't do the Java challenges with F sharp. You have to use Java. But there's lots of different things you can do, but I'm just going to focus on the functional programming since F sharp is a functional programming language. But they have these contests that you can compete in. I've signed up for I think both of these, so these will be my first one. So I haven't competed in any yet, but I've signed up. And these you actually submit code and it's rated, and you're rated on the level of your code. I don't know much beyond that right now because I haven't competed in one, but maybe in a future video after I have some experience I can talk about that. You can also see as you complete these contests and the different challenges here, you can get ranked. So if you look at the functional programming right now, I am in the 36th percentile, which isn't that great, but I just started. And the more challenges you solve, the more points you get. So you can see here different points that I've gotten for different challenges that I've completed. So there is that. And then they also have a leaderboard, so to see just how you rank compared to everybody. So if you look in functional programming, you can see what country they're from and everything else. So that's my overview for HackerRank. What I'm going to do is actually dive into some of the functional programming course challenges and show you what those look like. So I'm going to go to View All, and I'm going to go to the very first one, which is solvemefirst.fp. So you click on it, and I'm not going to read all of the details, but basically you have to read in two numbers from standard in and output the sum. So it's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to it. So let's open up Visual Studio Code. I've got a solvemefirstfp.fsx. First thing you want to do is open the system namespace, just like in C#. And I'm going to create a main method. And I'm going to The underscore is for the arguments, and there are no arguments, and that's just a standard way in F# to say there's a variable, but it's not going to be used for anything. So I create let main underscore equals, and then I indent. Functions within F# don't use curly brackets like you're used to in C#. It's all done based on indentation, so I just use a tab to indent. And I'm going to say let A equals, and I'm going to do console.readLine. This probably looks familiar to the you all who watched my other video. I'm going to say let B equals console.readLine. And right now, if you look, A is a string. So console.readLine, it uses the .NET framework just like C#, and just like in C#, the console.readLine reads in a string. But we want two integers, and we want to add them together. So I need to convert them to an integer. And I'm going to use a pipe operator, which is this right here. And what that does is if you hover over it, it takes an argument of type T, so a generic argument, and it passes it to a function that accepts type T, and it returns another generic argument. So it takes a value of any type, and then it takes a function that accepts a variable of that type and returns a new variable of a different type. I'm going to use the function called int within F#. If you look at int, it takes a generic variable and returns an integer. And so I'm going to do the same thing for B, int. And now I have two variables. A is an integer, B is an integer, and I want to add them together and print them out. So you can use console.write line, but that's not very standard. The more preferred way of doing it is the printfn. So I'm going to do printfn, double quotes, and then a %i. I is for integer. There's also S for string, there's A for array, but we want to stick to the I for now. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to put A plus B. I misspelled console, so I'm going to correct that. And now this is my program, and I want to run the main method. Alright, so I'm just going to select all with Control A, and I'm going to hit Alt Enter to send it to F# Interactive. I'm going to input 5 for the first input. I'm going to input 7 for the second input, and when I hit Enter, it prints out 12. Which is correct. So I should be good to go. Right now, I could technically take this code and send it to the HackerRank website, submit it, and be done. But I am a little bothered by this. I have this same code duplicated twice, so I want to refactor that. The first thing I'm going to do is create a method that just reads in a string from the console. Now, it may be a little bit redundant because the function is just a single line, which is just console.readLine, but these challenges build on each other. So it's going to be used more throughout the other challenges. So maybe it's redundant, maybe it's not. This is just how I'm choosing to do it. And now I'm going to create another function called readInput, and it's going to take another function as a parameter. So this is where functional programming gets in, where functions are really treated as first-class citizens. So you can pass them around as variables, as parameters, or anything else. So I'm going to call this function convert, and I'm going to say call the readString function, and I'm going to pipe the results of that to convert. So now I can replace this code and just call readInputInt. Same thing here, readInputInt. If I hover over A, all of this should work. And when I run this, select all, hit enter, hopefully everything will work. I'm going to put 5, I'm going to put 7, the output is 12, so it's still matching. So let's go over this real quick. You look at this read string, it's a function that takes a generic argument. Now in this case I put underscore, which is kind of the standard way of saying it takes an input, but you're not going to do anything with it. You don't use it. And you'll see why we use that in a later challenge. And all it does is call console.readLine. The next function is read input. It takes a generic type, generic variable, and returns a generic variable. Now the convert is actually a function, and it calls read string and pipes it to convert. So here we're calling read input, passing int, the same function we used before, as a parameter, and we're doing the same thing for B and printing it out. Now if you go back to the HackerRank website, they give you sample input and they give you sample output. So they say if you pass in 2 and 3, you should get 5. So let's just test that. Run it. Oops. And 2, 3, and we get 5. So now I'm going to select all my code, go back to HackerRank. I'm going to delete this, paste in my code. Make sure you choose F# down here in the drop down, and first I'm going to hit run code, and this runs it against usually 1 or 2 test cases, not the full suite of test cases. We get a check mark, it says it passed the sample test case. Now you hit submit code, and you see here it's testing against 2 different test cases, but all of them have green checks. You get a congrats, you solved this challenge, and you are done. So that is our first HackerRank challenge. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. The first few are pretty quick. I'm going to move through them a little bit faster, pick up the pace. So this is your classic Hello World problem. And basically there's no input. All you do is print out Hello World. So this is a pretty easy challenge. I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to go to Hello World, and actually I'm not going to copy it at all. I'm just going to do open system. I'm going to say let main underscore equals, and I'm going to use the same printfn function, but this time instead of %i like we did last time, I'm going to do s for string. And I'm simply going to say hello world. Now we're going to run the main method, select it, run it. It printed out hello world. So this should solve this challenge. I'm going to come here. I'm going to run code. Pass the test case. I'm going to submit code. And we solved the challenge and we earned 5 points. So that is problem number 2. Close this out, and now let's go to the third one, which is hello world in times. So this one, it takes an input, which is an integer, and whatever that integer is, you're supposed to print it out hello world that many times. So I'm going to come back here, I'm going to copy this code, I'm going to have a new script, hello world in times, and I'm going to start with our hello world example. I'm going to use the code from our other example, this read string, read input. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to copy this. one of the things I don't like about HackerRank is you can't build up a library and reuse code. You do end up doing a lot of copy and pasting, but that's okay. So I'm going to say in and read input integer. Now we have this printfn hello world. I'm going to refactor this. I'm going to say let print string, and I'm going to say input equals, I'm going to say printfn input. Now, one thing, if you're coming from C# or Java from an object-oriented, when you look at this challenge, you're immediately thinking a loop. Now, F# has loops. You can do a for loop just like you can in C#, but it's not the recommended approach. Typically, if you're in F# or a functional language, if you start to write a loop, you should stop and ask yourself, how can I do this a different way? And the typical way of doing that is using either a sequence or a list, and using either the map function or the iterate function. So I'm going to create a list, and I'm going to start at 1. Open this bracket. This square bracket is how you create a list in F#. So I'm going to start at 1. I'm going to hit dot dot, and then I'm going to put in. Now what this does is it creates a list of integers from 1 to n, incrementing by 1. Now I'm going to pipe that to list dot. Now list has a lot of different functions that you can choose from. What we are going to use here, the two that I use most frequently are map and iter. The difference between these two is iter does not return a value, map does return a value. In this case, all we are doing is printing out to a console, so I do not want to, I do not care about the I'm not trying to convert the value. There's going to be no return type. So I'm going to use iter, and iter takes a function. So lambda, just like in C#. If you're used to lambda, so you say fun. In this case, it passes in the list element, but we don't care about the actual list element because we're going to do the same thing every time. So I use this underscore, and then the little lambda syntax in F#, and I'm going to say print string hello world. Now what this is going to do, you have a list of n elements, and it's going to iterate over each item in that list. It's going to ignore the value of that input, and it's going to call the print string function that we created up here and pass hello world. So now, if you go back to HackerRank, it says if it has an input of 4, it should print it out 4 times. So we select this, hit Alt-Enter, pass in 4, and our output is hello world 4 times. So we should be good to go here. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to copy. I'm going to paste the code in here. I'm going to run it. And we pass the test case. I'm going to submit the code. And here you can see we have 4 different test cases that we have to pass. All 4 have green checks, and we solved the challenge and earned 5 points. So that's all I'm going to cover today. In future videos, I'll cover more complex challenges. We'll continue working our way through this so that you can help learn the different features of F#. Also, I'm going to submit this code on GitHub so that you can clone a copy of it. You can play around with the code and look at exactly what I did. That's all I have for today. So let me know, what did you like? What questions did you have? Did I go too fast? Did I go too slow? And how can I make these better? So I'll see you next time. I appreciate your time. Thanks. Bye.